You're at a baseball game, holding a warm sausage in a bun. Someone asks what you're eating, and without thinking, you say, a hot dog. But then it hits you. Why dog? Why would anyone name a food after an animal we don't eat? The name sounds so normal now that we never question it. But when you really think about it, calling food a dog is bizarre, maybe even a little unsettling. Here's the thing. The name wasn't always innocent. It started as a joke, possibly even an insult, rooted in suspicion and rumor. And somehow, that joke became one of the most famous food names in history. The story begins in Germany, where sausages weren't just food, they were culture. Cities like Frankfurt and Vienna spent centuries perfecting their recipes. Frankfurters, Wieners, Bratwurst, each one had a distinct style, a local pride. When German immigrants arrived in America during the 1800s, they brought these sausages with them, setting up carts in cities like New York and Chicago. At first, they sold them the traditional way, on a plate with a knife and fork. But Americans wanted convenience, so someone, and history doesn't quite remember who, had a simple idea: put the sausage in a long bun. Suddenly, it was portable. You could walk, talk, and eat at the same time. Perfect for street corners, fairs, and eventually baseball stadiums. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. In the late 1800s, food safety was a mess. There were no regulations, no inspections. People didn't always trust what was in their meat. Rumors began circulating that unscrupulous butchers were using scraps, even dog meat, to fill their sausages. It probably wasn't true for most vendors, but the joke spread anyway. And there was another connection people made. The long, thin sausages looked just like dachshund dogs, those low, stretched-out German breeds. So people started calling them dachshund sausages, half as a description, half as a dark joke about what might be inside. Street vendors in New York caught on. They'd shout to passersby, "Get your hot dachshund sausages." The sausages were served piping hot, so the phrase was literal. Hot, dachshund, sausage. It was catchy, but also a little long. Then came the most famous story, and the most disputed one. Around 1901, a sports cartoonist named Tad Dorgan supposedly attended a baseball game at the Polo Grounds. Vendors were shouting about their hot dachshund sausages, and Dorgan wanted to capture the moment in a drawing. But he didn't know how to spell dachshund, so instead he simply wrote hot dog. The cartoon allegedly appeared in a newspaper, and the name stuck. Here's the problem. No one has ever found that cartoon. Historians have searched newspaper archives for decades. Some believe it was lost. Others think the story is a myth, invented later to explain something that had already happened naturally. Dorgan himself never confirmed it. But whether the cartoon existed or not, the nickname was already spreading. By the early 1900s, hot dog was street slang, used by vendors, customers, and kids at ballparks. It was easier to say, it was funny, and strangely, it fit. By the 1920s, the name was everywhere. Nathan Handwerker opened Nathan's Famous in Coney Island in 1916, selling hot dogs for 5 cents. His stand became legendary, and his success helped make the hot dog an American icon. The name was no longer a joke, it was official. And then something else happened. The phrase hot dog started being used as an exclamation. People would say it like wow or amazing. It became slang for excitement, for something fun and energetic, just like the food itself. The name had fully escaped its origins. So today, when you eat a hot dog, you're biting into a strange piece of history, a food named after an animal because of a rumor, a joke, and maybe a cartoonist who couldn't spell. A name that started as suspicion and became a celebration. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary things we eat carry stories we've forgotten. And sometimes, the weirdest names are the ones that last the longest.